and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I am your hostess with the mostest, Amy Edwards, and I am broadcasting live from my desk space today. I got a new chair, and I'm addicted to it. If you don't have a chair that makes you happy, then I am going to urge you to dive in, find one you like, an expensive one, find a dupe, and get it. That's what I did. I saw somebody in a four-hands one that was like, $1,100. And then I found this on sale at Office Max, like a fabric-y. Oh my God, it leans back. Oh, I am just ecstatic. It's made my whole desk experience much better. And I've been sitting at my desk more lately because I'm starting a company. So I'm putting in the, I guess you'd say desk hours. So welcome to the show. How are you? I hope you are great. I'm drinking my Purpose Plus, former supporter of the show, and I'm still loving it like crazy. So what do I need to tell you today? I'm just thrilled that you're here. We're doing a solo episode today about letting things go, how to let things go. Are you ready? Because chances are you've got some things you want to let go of. I sure do. As I was brainstorming about this topic, I couldn't believe the things that came up that I'm still holding on to. Just piddly dumb stuff that I'm wasting energy on and holding on to. So let's take a deep breath. And let's just tune in and see if we can let things go together. Are you ready? Me too. Oh. All right. I've had a drink. I'm ready to go. So, am I an expert on how to let things go? I'm going to go with no, but I have studied this extensively. I have worked at it. I have years and years of experience in working on letting things go. And it comes from all sorts of places. A big part of it comes from having two ex-husbands that I have children with and letting things go there, which extremely challenging. But I'm happy to say that when I thought back on a lot of things, those weren't what came up. So sometimes we can work on the bigger stuff of letting things go, but we're still devoting energy to the littler things, the little perceived slights. I thought a lot too about the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's those things that we cannot control, those are the things that maybe have happened to us that we can let go of. Just accept and move on. So we're going to talk about acceptance today. So I've got 5 facts that we're going to do in the second half after the commercial break. 5 facts. I don't want to tell them I don't want to say necessarily keys to letting things go, but I want to say they're facts about holding on to stuff. And so they're there for your ponderance and perhaps exercises. So I think that another way of talking about holding on to things is grudges. I looked up the definition of grudges, and it said a persistent feeling of ill will or resentment resulting from a past insult or injury. Yeah. I saw a TikTok not too long ago, and the girl said, "Am I holding a grudge, or am I just remembering accurately how you treated me?" I was like, that's interesting, because we can really think about an accurate way that someone treated us, but then the grudge feels different, right? When I thought about that TikTok, I thought the grudge is a different type of energy. It just feels different. I think you have to check in with those emotions, right? And if you're remembering how someone treated you, but those emotions come up, that's where we're holding on to it. The grudge just has a different feel. It has a different energy. Justin had someone that he encountered who I thought treated him poorly. And I held on to that a ton. Then we got invited to this guy's house. I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to badmouth anybody because I guess I'm holding a grudge, but I'm trying really hard to let it go. But I had to tell Justin, I said, I think I'm still holding a grudge because this person didn't treat you right in my eyes. They did a couple things that I found ethically questionable. And it just went against their public persona. So that was confusing to me, and I did not like that. So he said, you're going to have to let it go. And so I really had to work at that day. And did I let it go? I think so. Yes, I think I did. But at the same time, I can sense that it's an ongoing practice. And so we're going to talk about that too a little bit later. So there's the other way of saying it besides grudge is resentment, right? And they talk a lot in the 12-step program, which, I had that AA reference with the serenity prayer, but resentment, that's another way of holding on to something, is that resentment, right? Even little slights. I looked up what resentment meant too. It means bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly, a feeling of indignant displeasure or persistent ill will at something regarded as wrong, an insult, or injury. So there's that mistreated. I had that come up too, and I realized I was holding on to something just that I didn't even realize I'm putting energy toward. And one of the things I thought of that I'm holding on to is, I think it was about 1.5 years ago, and someone called me and they said, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to talk to you because we need some customer service representatives to answer the phone for us at our company. And I just immediately thought of you. And I was like, you did? And they said, yes, I just don't feel like we can afford you because we're only offering $20 an hour, but we might be able to go up to 25. I think they went up to 25. And I was astounded that someone would think of me for that when I have, a radio background. I'm 50 years old. I didn't get it. And I felt like it was, I don't know, probably shouldn't even be talking about him, but I just felt like it was a slap, right? And so whenever I think of it, those feelings come up, and I don't want to live in those feelings. And I don't want to have those feelings toward that person. Maybe there were extenuating circumstances that I don't know about. But I've got to let it go. It doesn't matter even about the other person. It matters for my own health and well-being and mental sanity. So how can I let these things go? One time on New Year's Eve, this was many years ago, I think probably 18, 20 years ago, I decided to let all my grudges go. And so I tried to excavate these old grudges. I had one from when I was 14 or 15 years old, the summer before my sophomore year in high school. And a close friend stole $50 from me. I'll just tell you the story. We were very good friends for a long time, but we went to the mall with another friend too, and I had a $50 bill that I had, I don't know, gotten for my birthday or something like that. And that was rare. It wasn't, when you're 15, you don't have a $50 bill every day. And as we're at the mall, I start looking for my $50 bill and I can't find it anywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, I lost it. And this other friend, we go to buy something in some store and she suddenly has a $50 bill. And I go, oh my gosh, you have a $50 bill? Where'd you get that $50 bill? And she said, oh, I got it babysitting for whoever, my aunt. And I said, oh, wow. And my other friend that was there later was like, no way, she took that from you. So I tell my mom about it, and my mom ends up calling her mom and says, where did she get this $50 bill? Or she didn't say that. She said, oh, I guess you're paying her to babysit or whatever. And of course the mom, the jig was up because the mom said, oh no, we didn't pay her that. So sure enough, she did steal the $50 from me. And then, and I really have let this go, I promise. And then I get to school. It was right before school started. I get to school for the first day of school. And I didn't even say anything to this person about the $50 bill or whatever. I was like, I'll just distance myself. And I get to school and someone comes up to me. I can't even remember who it was. And he comes up to me and he goes, I can't believe you accused her of stealing $50. And I was like, I didn't even say anything. What? And now it had been turned around on me and made me look like I was just accusing someone innocent. Anyway, I held a grudge about that situation toward that person for definitely for the rest of high school. We weren't friends anymore. I wasn't mean, but I just wasn't friends with that person. And I held on to it though for many years. And finally I was like, how much longer? How much longer am I going to hold on to this? When is time to let it go, for God's sake? So I ended up really doing some work, even back then, before I was doing much spiritual work, of recognizing that those feelings were coming up and letting them go. So I think the difference is, and I still didn't want to be friends with her, right? I have another friend like that too. Like, I'm not holding a grudge, but I know what I'm dealing with. So that's the difference. The difference is knowing who or what you're dealing with and accepting that versus harboring a feeling about it. And that would be a negative feeling, right? Like sadness, resentment, anger, judgment, self-pity. I read something about self-pity today and how it was tied up with resentment. And I was like, oh man, because there's that poor me. And, you get where I'm going with that. And I'm sure you can relate because we've all had moments of self-pity. I am not immune whatsoever. So Gigi's dad, my younger daughter, he used to say he didn't really care if someone was dishonest with him. He just wanted to know what he was dealing with. And I love that because that is the thing, right? That's the difference. The difference is getting wound up in knots about it versus saying, okay, I see how this functions. I see what I'm dealing with, and then choosing to walk away, which is profound. Acceptance isn't judgment. I think it's healthy boundaries. That's exactly what it is. You accept it, and this is the reality that we're dealing with here. And do I want to accept that or not? Versus that judgment, that irritation, that I don't want to be around them at the party. I was just listening to Michael Singer. What is it called? It is called, hold on, I can look at my phone and tell you. It's on Audible, and it is called Living from a Place of Surrender, The Untethered Soul in Action. It looks like that. You can't see it. But it's Michael Singer who wrote The Untethered Soul. I'm a huge fan of his. And if you haven't listened to his lectures, he's funny and he's engaging, and I think you'll love it. So session 4 is the one I'm listening to, but that's exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about these things that we hold on to and don't want to let go of. And then we expect the world to conform to what we want. And we make ourselves miserable around it, right? Like, I don't want to go to that party because so-and-so is going to be there, because you're holding on to something. So how can we let those things go? Let's do it.
This podcast is sponsored by Wands. Wands creates luxurious pleasure practice tools that help people become more connected to their bodies. They have a huge selection of incredible items like yoni eggs, the most gorgeous crystal pleasure wands you've ever seen, free bleed blankets, and my favorites, the trademarked glass cervix wand and the Venus wand, which is their heaviest wand made of stainless steel, and their new ecstatic vibrator. This company is woman-owned and creates products designed to help you become more connected to your body and your pleasure and support the healing of pelvic pain. Get yours today in their always discreet packaging at wands.com. That's wands with 2 A's, WAANDS.com, and use my link in the show notes to get 10% off or enter the code Amy Edwards at checkout. Again, that's wands, WAANDS.com. The Amy Edwards Show is sponsored in part by Higher Dose. Higher Dose creates wellness tech for everyone with tools, supplements, and body care. And I have 15% off for you with my code MAGIC15. Higher Dose has been featured in Goop, Glamour, Elle, Vogue, Bazaar, Allure, and more. I have their infrared pulsed electromagnetic field, or PEMF mat, which emits electromagnetic waves that mimic natural frequencies found in nature, stimulating and encouraging your body's natural recovery process. It also has 20 pounds of crystals in it and has shown to ease chronic pain, aid in exercise recovery and circulation, deepen your meditations, reduce stress, and improve total body relaxation. I also love their red light face mask. It stimulates collagen, reduces fine lines, regenerates cells, and it's soft and easy to use and store and even travel with. I'm a true fan of these items and more, like their glow serum. So I'm excited to offer you 15% off using my code MAGIC15. Go to the show notes. You can click through on the link right there. Or if you go to Higher Dose, just enter the code MAGIC15 for 15% off. HigherDose.com. This podcast is sponsored by The Collective ATX. If you're looking for the best in hair extensions, it's The Collective ATX. They do mine, and I won't go anywhere else. I've tried them all over the years, and finally, I've found what makes my real hair stronger and fuller, and even works with my natural curl. They keep all their extensions in-house, so there's no wait, and they specialize in no damage to your natural hair like traditional hair extension methods. Plus, they're pros at color and covering gray. I have literally never in my life been happier with my color. They were named a top 200 salon by Salon Today in 2023. They've changed my hair journey. Let them change yours. The Collective ATX, link is in the show notes.
So, how do we let those things go? So instead of necessarily exactly how to, I'd say you apply these facts and remember them. And the first one, and that's what this is all about, is that it's a practice. It is such a practice, and that's okay. Just like the one I was talking about earlier, right? I've had to recognize that sometimes it's still going to come up. And I don't think emotions are all clean, right? They're not all like, oh, this is resentment, and this is detachment, and this is, maybe that's not an emotion, and this is, joy, and this is whatever. They're not all clean, because I think that, let's say that $50 bill story, that friend, I think there was probably grief tied up in there, right? If someone does something, there can very easily be a mix of emotions like grief or, sadness that are mixed up in there. And sometimes we just don't know how to express them. So I think if you can remember fact number one, that it's a practice and it comes with time, and that is totally okay. So give yourself as much grace as you can around any grudges or anything that you are having trouble letting go of, because it's not a one and done, and it's not as clean and clear where it's coming from. Maybe you were wrong. Maybe it's self-pity. Maybe it's disappointment. Whatever it is, there's a whole range of emotions that can be in there. Look at the emotions wheel. I love that thing. I mean, talking about a practice for me, Justin's in recovery. And so there were a lot of things that went on in those spurts when he relapsed. And that he doesn't really remember them, but I do. And I think that I'm sure lots of people that have been through living with a partner who's dealt with addiction have, had those things come up, and they perhaps don't express them in a healthy way. And I've tried really hard to continue to detach from those, but still they can come up. And it's just a practice for me. And it is for him too. He's gotten so much more adept at dealing with them and giving me compassion in those situations and apologizing. And so that's been really nice to have somebody, but you don't always have that, okay? And we'll get to that. So, second, holding on to things affects your shine. We're here to shine bright. We're here to shine bright. We're here to glow. Here to live that best life or favorite life, whatever you want to call it. it affects your shine. If you want to dull down, then hold on to stuff and stew about it, right? And I don't care if that's a vain motivation. So what? Talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to get professional help. Absolutely. But how long are you going to keep talking about it? It's like me with that $50 story. Like, I was still holding on to it so many years later. But sometimes we even keep talking about things, right? And keep dwelling on them, keep rehashing them, keep beating that horse carcass, dragging it out of the closet, beating it some more. Oh my gosh, been there. Absolutely. So how long are you going to keep talking about it? Because that's energy spent in a very dull, low vibrational place. So the sooner we can stop those words coming out of our mouth and spinning in our head and let it go, dwelling in it, the more will shine, right? The sooner you can stop dulling yourself with that, the more you'll shine. And I find that exceptionally motivating about detaching and allowing and accepting. Okay, number 3, third fact to put into practice. It takes time. Part of this whole experience, this human experience that we're having, is experiencing it all. That means all. That means we don't know the joy without the pain, right? And so sometimes you just got to go through it and experience it, and you can't skip over that part. And that's okay. So allow those emotions to flow and don't rush this. It's okay if it takes a decade. That's all right. I mean, my gosh, I had a girl band I was in. Some of you may know my story. I was in a band with friends, and when we broke up, I took it so hard, and I was very resentful. It was very hard to let go of because they were friends. We were in the same social circles. I followed them on social media. Mute is your friend, by the way. And it was just so challenging for me. It was like a divorce, a death, grief. And I couldn't rush that. I had to just do the work around letting it go. And it took a long time. I mean, when I say a long time, I mean almost 10 years, probably 9, 8. And I know it's wild. It probably took a little bit less because I really started doing a lot of spiritual work. And so let's say 6 or 7, but that's still a pretty long time. And I had to give myself grace around it and know that I was doing my best, because you are, and things hurt. So sometimes it takes time. And if it was just one and done, that would be so nice. But if you're really going to let things go, you've got to experience all those emotions. You've got to allow them. Maybe write them down. I think you can hit the accelerator on it. You can really make conscious efforts not to talk about it, not to dwell on it. You can accelerate the process, and you can do all the things that you need to do. And since it's a practice, you get better at it. Like it's like flexing a muscle. You've let this go. You've gotten good at that. You know how it's done. You're more able to let things go when they happen in another, situation. So, number 4, the 4th, focus on gratitude. So how can you shift that whole situation around, whatever it is, and find the good? Like Kevin said, Gigi's dad, even like Kevin said, maybe be grateful that now you know exactly what you're dealing with. That's a simple one right there, right? I could be grateful that that friend showed me, what was okay with her, right? And I send her all the love wherever she is now. And maybe there's other ways to shift, right? Maybe you can find gratitude for what you learned in that situation, that you learned how you react under pressure, that you learned, a whole number of things. maybe for me with the girl band breaking up, I got to really find out who I was as a songwriter and push myself, redefine success, find out what I was capable of, a lot of different things. And as sad as I was about what happened, I really did learn to stand on my own 2 feet in a whole new way. And I developed, all the rock your life stuff I used to talk about and really sharing that message of going for it at any age, because I was already 40 at the time. I was over 40. I was like 41, I think. Yeah, I was. So, all right, number 5. Accept that you may not get an apology. So that's part of that acceptance, right? You may never get an apology. I am not a fan of the myth of closure. A lot of times we'll hold on to something and say, well, I just need closure. How many times have you heard that? I mean, like a zillion. Yeah, me too. Closure is a fucking myth and a half. It's not a thing. No. If you're holding out for closure, you're holding on. Because you may never get closure. I had this boyfriend that dumped me when I was in my 20s. I was totally in love with him. And he dumped me, and it was before ghosting was a thing, right? This was in the late 90s or the mid-90s. And he just ghosted me. He came to visit because we lived in different cities. He came to visit, and then he left and literally just gone. And I was so sad and so confused. I didn't know where he was, didn't know how to reach him. We didn't have the internet. I couldn't look at his Facebook or something. So I was so sad. And then on Christmas Day, I was up in New York spending Christmas with some family friends. Well, my sister-in-law, my sister's husband's family. And so his sister and I were really close. And so we were like, let's call information, see if we can find his parents' house, see if he's there for Christmas. Well, he answered the phone. We got a hold of him. He answered the phone and he hung up on me. I said, where have you been? Well, why haven't you called me? And he hung up on me. And I was like, holy shit. It's like, that's it. That's the closure that I got. Isn't that wild? And sometimes that's what happens. I realized right then that closure is what you make it. So you can let things go without closure. Don't hang on for closure. So you may never get the apology. Man, I'm just telling all sorts of stories. I had this affair, at the end of, I've talked about this, at the end of my last marriage. I am not proud of it and had a thing with someone, and that's what kickstarted me to know that I needed to get out of my marriage. And so anyway, shit hit the fan. That's a whole nother story. The whole thing blew up. It was awful. I'm laughing, but it's not funny, really. And so the whole thing blew up, and that person ghosted out on me, had his own stuff to deal with, and I had hung a lot of hopes there. I don't even know if you say hopes. I think just feelings, because I was going through a lot because I was leaving marriage, which is tough to do. And I kept thinking maybe he would call and, something. And then, a year went by and just nothing. And I thought, wow, I just had to close the book on that myself. And then one day on, oh my gosh, Christmas again. Christmas Eve, I think it was. I was alone wrapping presents, and the phone rang, and I had deleted his contact, but I recognized the number. So I answered. I thought, I think he might be calling to apologize. And sure enough, he did. So sometimes when you do all that work and you really let it go and you're able to create your own closure, you may be surprised and you may actually get an apology that you don't even need anymore. Isn't that something? Because I didn't need it anymore. And the same with the girl band. We ended up having coming back together, and we are friends now, but it took a long time. But I ended up talking about things with them, and I guess you would say I got an apology, and I apologized too. And it was so funny because I didn't need it anymore. So that's when things come around, right? Closure, make your own closure. Let these things go. Accept that this is what you are dealing with, and you can walk away, your choice, and you can continue to shine, right? And then who knows? You're going to be at peace, though. I know that for sure. And I can speak firsthand, and I'm going to let those other things go too. So I would love to hear from you and know what you're going to let go. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am really happy to keep connecting and to get positive responses about these solo episodes. So thank you for that. And please rate, review, subscribe, especially review, please. I would love to continue to build up the show on Apple Podcasts with reviews, and then extra stars on Spotify, and keep building that up too. I love this show so much, and I love you so much. And it's because I learn so much about myself too. When I sit here and do these, when I interview people, I learn so much about myself, and I hope you do too. That's what I want. I want us to keep finding those places where we're expending energy that could be serving us in much better ways, serving the world in better ways, and freeing us up to shine as brightly as possible. That sounds pretty damn good to me. Do I need to review those 5 real quick? The 5 facts? Remember, it's just a practice. 2nd, holding on affects your shine. 3rd, it takes time, and allow those emotions to flow. Don't rush it. Number 4, focus on gratitude. How can you flip it around and find that good? And 5th, accept that you may not ever get an apology, so create your own closure. Boom. I love you so much, and I just hope you have a really kick-ass weekend, or whenever you're listening to this, and keep shining brighter and brighter and brighter all the time. Get your sunglasses on. I love you so much. Till next time.
This has been the Amy Edwards Show from Overcome Studios. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. Sign up for our newsletter at amyedwards.com.